Hello and welcome to Flying High with Flutter. I'm allenwyma, and today I'm going to introduce my very special guest, Tadas Petra. And he is a Flutter developer and also a rather popular YouTube content creator, creating a lot of videos all about Flutter. And so without any further delay, I want to go ahead and pass it over to him to kind of give himself a quick introduction. So go ahead.
All right. Nice to see everybody. I'm Tadas. Like he said, I make YouTube videos on Flutter. I made my first one in January 2020, so a little bit over a year ago. And I like to cover topics. I really like to break stuff down into very easy to understand ways. That's kind of what I keep trying to improve because there's a lot of complex topics in Flutter. Even though it does make things a lot easier, there's a lot of complex topics, and I think my goal is to explain them as simple as I can. And yeah, so you can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Twitter. I'm pretty active on there too, and that's about it. Before YouTube, I was working as embedded C, so something completely different than Flutter. And then I kind of started working with Flutter on my own before it even got released to stable. Then after a couple years, I decided to release some YouTube videos about it because there wasn't that much content. And then one thing led to another, and here we are.
Are you happy you made the choice? You made the switch?
Yeah, definitely. At my last job, I was getting things just became very documentation oriented because it was making software for trucks, so everything was very safety critical, and you have to make sure every little word in your requirements was correct and everything. So my days ended up being 60 to 70% just working with Word documents, and that's kind of what my outlet was, working with Flutter on the side, and then creating YouTube videos was another outlet. So it was I had my job where I was a little bit boring, and then I had my creative outlets whenever I was done with it, and yeah, it's been a lot more fun.
If I understand correctly, I believe you actually quit your job and went full time on YouTube. Is that right?
Yeah.
Are you still doing that also?
I quit my job 2 months ago, so January 2021. My last day was actually exactly 1 year since I released my first video on January 15th. And yeah, I'm interviewing for a couple companies right now. So the end goal, I think, isn't going to be full-time YouTube, but the role I'm looking for is developer advocate, which is still within this whole YouTube space.
Yeah, I saw that actually. I was quite surprised because you were like, I'm going to do this, and then you're looking what happened. Did you kind of a little bit run out of money, or maybe it's a little bit personal question, but I am just kind of curious because it was quite quick, I think, when I saw your video.
So the reason it was that quick is because I actually didn't know that there was such a thing as developer advocates. I had no idea that was an actual job that companies pay you for. Actually, I put in my 2 weeks at my job, and then 3 days later, I got reached out to by a company about this developer advocate role. And at that point, I was trying to figure out what the hell a developer advocate is. And then it seemed like someone that teaches the developers on the team about the specific software. That's what I got out of it. But then I had some interviews with them, and it's no, you pretty much just create content, and some of it has to be based around their technology. Not even all of it, just part of your job will be to create content about this technology. And it was something that I definitely believed in, definitely was interested in, and was probably going to create content about it anyways. And it seemed I don't know, it seemed like a perfect fit for me. So I decided to try that section of career out.
Yeah, I also seen you. I seen you create the video for Invoice Ninja, right? That was a pretty good one, actually. I'm actually thinking about using that now because I do already use a system for invoicing clients, and so I'm thinking that could actually be something I could use. And not to mention, I have a client. Of course, we also use Flutter for them, and they were also talking about issuing invoices and other things. And I thought this could be quite useful.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't I don't issue too many invoices. I usually use the basic like PayPal invoice stuff, but it seemed from what I got to learn from it and like work with it a little bit, it seemed to make things really, really simple. And I mean, that's kind of what I feel like Flutter is about, just making creating apps easy. And then Invoice Ninja, they seem to be a pretty great company, and they make invoices pretty easy.
Have you thought to reach out to them? Because I know one of the guys, I think he's the CTO, Hillel, is actually quite in the community.
I mean, I still like.
Have you talked to him yet?
When I was making that video, I like talked to him a bunch, and I don't know if they're looking for dev advocate positions, but maybe I should reach out. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it never hurts. The Flutter community is quite small, but at the same time, it's also quite big too, I think, which is quite interesting.
It's grown really fast. It's kind of crazy. I feel like if it keeps up at this rate, like who knows where it's going to be in like 2 years.
Yeah, I agree. So, but yeah, I mean, I want to actually go back around to your background a little bit more, right? So you're originally from Lithuania, right? I believe you were born in Lithuania. You're not a first, your parents didn't arrive. I think you came by yourself, right? What's the story?
Nah. So I didn't come by myself, but I was born there. Me, my parents, and my sister, we came here when I was 6 years old. So I've been in the Chicagoland area since then. So yeah, technically I'm 100% Lithuanian.
Okay, but what brought you to US and specifically Chicago? Because Chicago is, I have to say, one of the places that people never really think about. They always think about the East Coast and the West Coast, but never really about what I would call the Mid Coast.
I'm not too sure what it is about Lithuanians in Chicago, but it seems like this whole Chicagoland area just has a ton of Lithuanians. And I don't know, I might be mistaken, but I think Chicago is one of the biggest Lithuanian populations outside of Lithuania. Maybe that was like 10 years ago, I don't know, but I've heard that somewhere. And it's just, I don't know what made my parents come here. I think it's just the whole American dream. They won the lottery for the green card, and I think they were planning on just like selling it or something like that, but then ended up deciding to like drop everything they were doing and come for the American dream. And I mean, I think whenever I talk to them, they don't know if they would do it again, but I mean, it ended up pretty okay.
So you're actually in the city? Or are you in the suburb?
I'm in the suburbs.
Which one?
I'm in like the Schaumburg area, if you know.
Oh, yeah. I know where that is.
Yeah,
Schaumburg is. Yeah, Schaumburg is a little bit far from me, from where my parents live right now. So I'm more so towards. Well, my parents are actually in Evergreen Park, which is, if you've heard of there before.
Not.
Have you heard of there or no?
I don't think so. No.
So they're famous for their mean police. So in our town, we actually have to have a little sticker on the bumper that says EP. And if you don't have it and they don't like you or they're having a bad day, they usually pull those people over who don't have it. And the other thing too is we also have a Walmart, and where I live is right on the edge of Chicago. Like I can walk 5 minutes. I'm in the city limit, and they put a Walmart right there. I don't know if you know much about the city of Chicago and Walmart, but Walmart's basically anti-union, and Chicago's pretty democratic and pretty pro-union. And so they kind of stick it to them. I think they purposely put the Walmart right on the border so people from Chicago can come in and buy stuff and go back to the city.
I didn't even know about that, but that's kind of funny.
Yeah. So yeah, it's really like that. I also used to work at Motorola for my internship. I was at Libertyville though, up north a little bit. But sometimes I have to go down to Schaumburg because that's where the other one is, right?
A lot of people from my previous company came from Motorola. And my boss even worked for Motorola at some point.
Yeah, Motorola was a big place over there, right? Also, they also have, I think Walgreens is also headquartered in Schaumburg or something.
I'm not too sure.
Schaumburg is kind of like it's like, I don't know, the atmosphere is kind of like a little bit of a headquarters for businesses and a lot of other stuff, and also a little bit almost like a suburb. It is a suburb, but really a suburb feeling. But at the same time, it's also like a capital or something. It's very weird.
My last company was in like the Lyle, Wheaton area, like closer to Naperville, if you know.
Oh, I know Naperville. Yeah. So everybody knows.
Yeah, it's closer to, my last job was at that area, so I'm not too familiar with Schaumburg. I actually just moved here like a month and a half ago.
How do you like it compared to where you were before?
I haven't really gotten to go out much and like explore, so I don't really know. But it's kind of nice that there's a bunch of like a bunch of big stores that have like everything around the area, and there's the big Woodfield Mall, so it's nice.
Yeah,
I don't mind it. Not too different, I
yeah.
think.
I haven't been there in a long time. I have to check it out. Is that area also have the medical dispensaries? I'm just curious because I haven't been back in over a year now.
I'm,
I know they're
not too
starting
sure.
to have.
I haven't checked.
Okay, all right, and maybe we're talking too much about that, but there is something I have to ask. Very particular, right? Do you put ketchup on your hot dog?
Yeah. Are you not supposed
Oh
to?
man, that's a sin, right?
Why?
You didn't know about that?
I don't know about that,
I
but
don't
you
know.
gotta
It's
put ketchup on the hot dog. That's like, I mean, ketchup and mustard. That's like the double combo on for the hot dog.
oh man, you're gonna make some people
Is
upset.
that not a
Don't let
Chicagoan
anybody
thing
know
to
about
do?
that. That's the opposite of a Chicagoan thing. Supposedly, people will get knifed over that.
Hopefully, I don't.
Surprised nobody ever told you before.
Nope.
Yeah, people get really upset about the hot dog
I
stuff.
mean, when I go to Portillo's, they got the Portillo's is a big thing. Obviously don't put ketchup on there,
Yeah.
so I mean, I don't get it there. But if I get like if I'm making them myself, a little basic one, then I mean, why not? I don't got that strong feelings
Uh,
against ketchup.
all right. We're getting too local for most people, but it's good to catch up with another person around the same area. Um, so why don't we get back to kind of what you basically do every day, right? So you're looking for a position as a developer advocate, but what are you actually doing in right now in the daytime? Are you actually just making you're making like more content every day? Are you working for freelance clients or what's going on?
So the past couple weeks has just been like a ton of interviews, but like normally when if there isn't, then I'm yeah, pretty much just creating content, making videos, sometimes writing blog posts, even though I don't enjoy writing that much, but it's something I want to work on. Um, Things like that, working on side projects, but I don't do any freelancing work really. I'm working on my own side projects. Right now I'm working on a SaaS product, and then I have a couple apps that I'm working on as well.
So can we get a sneak peek? Because I heard you just bought a domain name. I'm guessing it's for the SaaS product. Is that a secret until you're more settled or what?
Um, I don't know if it was up to me. I think it's not a secret, but it's I'm working with someone else. I don't know if you would like me to share it, but it'll
Okay.
be. I'll let you know in a couple days. It should be. I think we're gonna start promoting it a little bit in a week or so.
And you're using Flutter for that, right?
No, I'm using Next.js.
Oh,
That's the React framework that we got to use for that one. It's a web only product, and it's like SEO and performance intensive. So we wanted the server side rendering
uh,
and all that stuff. Um, so we the kind of I mean it's just a couple features that Flutter Web doesn't have.
yeah, it's true. But I heard that they're really working on the SEO stuff because I know that's a pain.
Yeah, hopefully
So
I
it's too
really hope
good.
that that's my two big like wishes because it seems like desktop already has like the stuff figured out for the most part. But with web, I think if they're able to figure the SEO out and then um, even if they add server side rendering, that would be like then there's no other options. I feel like there's no reason to not use Flutter for anything.
How could you even do server side rendering though? Because I mean, you have to make your backend in Dart too. No, I'm just curious about how that would even work.
So I'm not. I don't know. I'm not too. I don't even fully understand server side rendering with React and Next.js. So I'm not even sure how you
Hmm.
do it for Flutter. But um, my guess is like so Next.js is built on top of React, so it renders the React app on the back end and then renders it, directly on the thing. So I'm thinking if Next is able to create like a Next dot Dart or something, because there's Next.js and then there's
Mm.
Nuxt, like Nuxt.js, which is for the Vue framework. I think I might be lying now,
Hmm.
but that's what at least I have um, ingrained in my brain. So if they are able to make something for Flutter, or if Flutter does it themselves, then it seems like there should be a way, but I don't know. I guess I'm not
Yeah.
technical enough about that specific topic.
I worked a little bit with another framework that has SSR server side rendering, and all they do is that they send JSON across the wire, and they have this library called Morph DOM, which will like patch the DOM for you. And so they divide the content up into two sections where you have one which is static, which never changes, and the other one which is dynamic. And so whatever changes is just that little piece of dynamic content that they sent. So just one of the values in the array, and they'll ship it across the wire. And then all it does is just puts it into the right spot and then just patches the DOM. So it's pretty fast.
And maybe they could do something like that with Flutter.
Maybe you have to figure out how the heck you would even divide up the content like that.
I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, but that would be interesting. I know a lot of people were actually asking questions about this on like Facebook groups and stuff I'm following. So I do have to ask though, because I'm a big fan of Android Studio, and I always see you using Visual Code Studio. Have you ever tried it out before? Why are you hating on Android Studio?
I'm an Android Studio hater for sure. No, I think it's definitely like a good good IDE, but the way I like things to be simple, and as long as they work well, I think it's that's kind of like my whole like vibe. I'm a minimalist, I think, in like real life.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of goes along with my like coding as well. Like the VS Code, as long as you have the debugger, that's kind of the thing you use 90% of the time to figure out issues. If you really need, you could pull up DevTools, and it's all there. I feel like most of the time you don't really need much more, even though Android Studio does have some nice things. I don't know. Maybe I'd like it more if I used it more. I don't know.
I just like clicking around a lot more. I like clicking the play button versus the other one. And also easier to swap devices because I always have a couple of phones or devices plugged in. Now that it supports desktop and web much easier now, it's like now I have to choose which device to run it on.
I got the like 16-inch MacBook Pro, so it has that little bar at the top. So I just there's a play button right on there all the time whenever I need it. So I guess I don't have that issue.
Okay. So how did you actually get into even programming to begin with, right? Because everybody must have a small story. I mean, what happened?
When I went to like college, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Before that, I took like intro to Python class in high school, and then I took like some computer repair class as well. But I didn't think that was something I wanted to do necessarily. Then I went to college, and I knew I wanted to do something engineering, but I hadn't really decided what that was going to be. That first year at school, I kind of just explored a bunch of topics. And I think after like the beginning of the first semester of my college career, I think I decided that I wanted to be a civil engineer because a lot of the friends I made were all civil engineers. And I'm like, oh, being part of like creating buildings, that's kind of cool. But I think as the semester went on, I got to exploring more, and then just computers was something that I had experience with. Like I built my own desktop in high school and everything. So I think just one thing led to another, and then I went into computer engineering. And even though computer engineering is not computer science directly, it's kind of a mix of electrical engineering and computer science. I think that's kind of why I strove towards that, because I was really interested in the hardware, but I was also like pretty interested in the development part of it. And with computer engineering, you kind of get a little bit of both. And then that's kind of what I did in school. Took all the classes. Actually, most of my classes were, I would say I didn't take many programming classes in school. I think I took like 2 actual CS classes. Then the rest of them, I took a big focus on hardware languages. So like, I don't know if you know VHDL and Verilog and that type of stuff. So those are languages that you code for creating hardware. So like in my classes, I wrote the code that would run like a processor and stuff like that. I was really interested by that. But then those jobs are so niche. Like you got to pretty much go work at Intel or AMD or something like that. There's not too many options for hardware languages. Then I got my internship. So my first year of college, I had an internship that was working with Java and Android. But it was like through this guaranteed paid internship program because like my grades were good enough. And it wasn't really it wasn't really any real internship. It was kind of like the school gave you a summer to learn about Android and how it works, and they paid you a little bit of money. So it wasn't really much. And then junior year of college, I got an internship at the company Navistar, where I learned embedded C. That's kind of where, at that company, I would say that's where most of my development expertise came from. I had a really good boss and a really great team, and they all like taught me a ton about development, even though it was just in C. And then that whole time in like college, and since I was working, I was building websites, creating apps, doing all that stuff. And then Flutter came out, and then that one caught my eye the most, and probably spent the most time working on that.
Okay, so what kind of got you interested to actually start creating these YouTube content videos from there? I mean, is it just just let me just tell us, right? I'm trying to speculate too much.
I think I don't really know the exact reason, but I remember at the time thinking that there wasn't much content on YouTube. YouTube's kind of the place where I learned a ton of my own. Like it was kind of my learning place for whatever I was doing at that time, and there wasn't that much content on Flutter. There was, of course, like some people that started a little bit earlier. Like Riso Coder was obviously the big person I learned from, and I really learned a lot from him, and I wanted to somehow give back. And maybe if I spend a lot of time learning a specific topic for an app that I'm building, maybe it's something that I could share through a video, and it could maybe help some people. So that was kind of my thought process when I first started. And then another thing is sometimes my memory is not too good with certain development topics. So who's better to teach me about a topic than myself? So I was kind of like building up a little log of information that I can always refer back to. And at the same time, hoping that maybe some people would see it. But when I started at that time, I wasn't really expecting much out of it. It was just kind of like, let's see if it helps anybody. If it doesn't, then whatever. And then it slowly started growing, and kind of started learning more about marketing and all that stuff. And then it just kept going, and then I kept creating content. I don't know.
What did you learn about marketing? Because this is also useful for me too. Because it's useful for everybody actually.
I think.
But how did you get about that?
Well, so for YouTube, there's kind of two ways you can go about stuff. There's either you can go for initial views or long-term views. So if you're going for initial views, the thumbnail and description, the thumbnail and title are like your biggest key factors that you need to focus a lot of energy in. Like someone told me that when I was like starting, that you need to focus a lot on the thumbnails and the title, and you kind of, as time goes on, you realize how important that part actually is. Like making sure you have very like clickable and accurate titles and good thumbnails and all that stuff. So that's the if you want a lot of initial views, but maybe not a lot long-term views. But the nice thing about YouTube is the video you put up there will last forever. It will be on platform for as long as YouTube probably exists. So you can also take the long-term route, and for that one, you want to make sure you have good SEO on your videos. So have a lot of keywords in the title, a lot of keywords in the description that describe that video accurately. So if you're making a video maybe on linting, make sure you mention the word linting multiple times, so that whenever people Google it, and if they watch your video, maybe your video will rise higher in the ranks, and then you'll have a lot of, maybe not a lot, but you'll have a long-term viewership on that video.
How about your YouTube setup, right? What kind of things? I think you actually did a video about that. Maybe you can just be a little bit quicker about, I don't mean to rush you, but you already did a video, I think, about that, right? So maybe you can just give a very brief intro about kind of like what you started with, what you're using now, and then also like why you decided to upgrade certain pieces. I'm sure you had to upgrade. Right?
Yeah. I started with, it was actually a pretty nice laptop that I had. It was a Windows laptop when I started. I was actually, when I started YouTube, I didn't have any Apple products. So it's kind of funny how that transition happened to almost like exclusively Apple products now. I started with, I don't remember the name, but it was a Lenovo Yoga ThinkPad Lenovo Yoga X1. I think that was the name of the laptop I started with. And it was nice because it came with a pencil in the side, so I was able to do my little drawing videos from the beginning.
All right, how do you draw right now? Actually, now that I mentioned it, I was always kind of curious about how you draw now. You use the iPad and you hook it up and record it separately, or
So
what?
I have I have an iPad now with the Apple Pencil, and you just hook it up to OBS Studio is what I used to record. So you can take the
Okay.
direct like iPad feed right into OBS Studio, and it ends up being pretty nice, I think. Um, and then yeah, when I started, I think I even used for the first couple of videos, I just used the laptop microphone, and it was just the laptop and like me, and that's it. Um, then I slowly realized that probably the most important thing for a YouTube channel is the audio. Like without good audio, you're not gonna get that many views because people can deal with poor video. Like if at that point, actually, I didn't even use like my face cam, so like it wasn't even that important. But if you are using face cam and like people could actually see you, I think video is a lot less important than having the clear audio. Like, yeah, people could deal with like a little grainy video of you, but you can't really deal with poor audio.
Yeah.
So the first investment I had was I was trying out a bunch of lavalier microphones, and I got some cheap ones off of Amazon. Um, and they worked okay for the next like 2 or 3 months. And then I started using my phone as the camera. I think that's a really great way to do it when you're starting out. OBS Studio has a so OBS Studio is what I use to record my screen and kind of take my input from the audio and all of that stuff. And OBS Studio has a app that you can download on your phone called like OBS something, and then
Hmm.
you can connect your phone to your laptop, and then you can get a direct stream from your phone camera. It's pretty. It was pretty neat, and I think that one you can use for a long time. If you have a newer phone, like those cameras are pretty good, and I think that's a great way to start. And then the biggest and most important investment I think was this here. It's a blue Yeti microphone. I bought it used from Craigslist, so it wasn't brand new, or else I would have got the black one. But I think that's when my audio improved a ton, and I think it was a great investment, and it's a really easy to set up and everything. And then I got my DSLR camera, like not that long ago. I'd say like 5 or 6 months ago, and I think that was kind of just so I can have a nice setup that doesn't need to really move. And then I got my MacBook Pro as well, and it's hooked up to one less. I think it was an $80 monitor that actually works pretty well, so I don't even need to replace it.
Yeah, you just moved something, and now your audio went a little bit bad quality. I don't know what you moved. You picked up when you picked up something, the video went out and the audio went out for a second.
Oh man, maybe switch.
You might have unplugged something.
Yeah, my
Maybe your
microphone
microphone
got
got
switched.
switched. Yeah, there you
Huh.
go.
Interesting. Is it better? All right.
Much better. Okay, so I wasn't going crazy. So yeah, I see you using it. I can see you using a Yeti
Yep.
stereo microphone. It says so.
I don't know why it
Okay,
switched
much
like
better.
that, but
You lifted up something and it looks like it unplugged.
that's
So
why I
that's
left
probably
it
what
up.
happened.
Hopefully, it doesn't disconnect again. All right.
Yeah, it's okay. No worries. I think a lot of people have that Yeti blue
Yep.
thing, right?
Yep.
Is that the same
It's a
one,
really
Yeti
good
blue?
microphone. I think the
Okay.
best part about it is like it's still relatively cheap compared to like professional level studio
Hmm.
microphones. And it's really easy to use. You just kind of plug it in, and there's not many settings. There's just like gain and volume, pretty much. So there's two knobs you could twist, and then you get it sounding right, and then don't need to update it anymore.
How much is that? That's like you said, it's
So
not too
it's still
expensive.
not cheap. It's like I think it's like $100. Like I said, I got it used from Craigslist, so I got the mic, the shock
Uh,
mount, the boom arm, and then the filter, all for $150. So that's a pretty good price. But yeah, it was
Pretty good
used.
deal.
Um,
Yeah.
I think new they're like $100 a piece, somewhere around there.
Okay. Yeah, I got a little bit more expensive microphone, but I don't know how good it is.
You sound
Hopefully it
pretty
sound
good.
okay. So yeah, this one is it plugs into your iPhone and everything. They got like a thing such as Shure MV51,
I've seen
but it's pretty decent. I like this one because I can plug it into the phone if I ever want
I've
to do
seen
it
a
on the
lot of
go.
people
Sorry,
who
go
have
ahead.
like the whole audio boards where you plug stuff in, and apparently those are a lot better quality. But I still have to learn about the whole microphone industry, so I haven't put in the time on that. Maybe I'll get a new one soon, but I think for now, at least the Yeti does good enough.
Yeah, I'm. It's hard to figure out. Like, it's also the distance, and there's lots of stuff, and I'm still learning. But how can I? I'm trying to program, trying to make money, trying to deal with stuff, and it's
I
just
feel like
never
uh,
ends.
I feel like
All
that
the
was
stuff I
kind
have to
of
pick up.
one of the biggest things that I underestimated when I first started, just how like complex the whole process is. I thought like, oh, whatever, you just turn on the camera, you turn on a microphone, and then you just record. Like, no, there's a lot to learn about microphones, a lot to learn about cameras. I still get like I still don't think I know how to use a camera that well. I think I got like this okay looking shot set up, and I don't want to touch anything just in case I ruin it.
Yeah, yeah. I got my editor's designer or whatever. Right? She does everything. So I have her come in, set up the camera. So I just don't touch it. We mark the floor with tape because I got somebody coming and clean up the office. So they knock it over. So I got to be able to put it back, and it's painful.
Yeah.
So I totally know what you mean. I'm even this one. I actually it looks like I'm out of focus. There I am. Yeah. So it's horrible. But getting back to YouTube, right? So I think I already mentioned to you that I also do some YouTube stuff, but in a slightly different landscape. And what's happened to me, not very often, but sometimes, is that sometimes I start to record a topic and then I end up giving up. Like, have you ever had that where you started to record a topic or wanted to do a topic and then you're like, you know what, this is just too
I
difficult?
haven't had that scenario. I think I've had videos I've redone just because of like I wasn't a fan of how it came out. But I don't think I've ever given up on a
Mm,
topic before. If it's something, I'm pretty dedicated to like try to finish whatever I start with it. Especially because like if you start recording it, then you've already. For me, I put in a lot of work beforehand before I even like click the record button. I like to make sure everything's like planned out and I have
yeah.
a way to attack it. So if I ever get to the record stage, I've already put in a lot of work and I don't want to like, waste it. I think it's important. Like if it's something that I might not be able to cover, I think it would have been caught earlier in the process. So yeah, for every video, I try to create like a flow of how I'm going to go through the topic and what points I'm going to cover. And like, I mean, from that flow, it becomes like relatively easy. I don't have it's like a bullet point checklist of what I want to cover, especially if you have some code, then, I have my explain this part before the code with the iPad and then get to the code part. So in the iPad, I'll have like bullet points of exactly what I need to go through to explain, and then once if I have that set up pretty well, if the video is well prepared, it usually goes pretty smoothly from the recording part.
So actually, then how much preparation time do you do for
It
each
definitely
video?
depends on the video, but it's the preparation. So a big factor for it is if there's code or not. That's necessary because creating a demo app, of course, takes like time and trying to figure out a way to write some code that helps people learn about what the heck you're trying to teach them about. I think that's kind of the biggest
Hmm.
time factor, but um, usually the recording and editing part is like the smallest part of the process. That's kind of just the last stage. I think setting up takes anywhere if there's code, probably takes a couple days to get it organized. Um, if there's no code, maybe like I could get it all planned out within like 3 to 4 hours, and then like 2 to 3 hours maybe, and then get ready for recording and all that.
Now, what it's happened to me before, but I'm curious if it ever happened to you. Has there ever been a topic where you're like, this topic is going to be fantastic, people are going to love it, and then it's not as popular as you thought, or even the other way around where you're like, this is just kind of interesting, but not so great, but it kind of just blew up
Um,
overnight.
so yeah, I mean that happens. That happens a lot. I feel like I have different expectations for like different videos, but like my biggest like failure or whatever, my worst video that I've ever done on my YouTube channel
Hmm.
is I tried to kind of pivot to something more broad. And my thought process was like, oh, this is going to be, I wanted to go through teaching development overall, like not just Flutter and Dart. And I decided to do it using Python. I'm like, all right, this will teach development overall. Python's a bigger like industry. There's going to be a ton of viewers that are going to join this and watch this. Even though, and then like people that have learned that are learning Flutter, this will be still useful to them because it's still learning development overall, kind of like ingrain all their skills even deeper. And I put out that video, and then nobody watched it. I tried to put a second video on it, nobody watched it, and then I'm like, all right, we gotta wrap this up and get back to what I'm good at.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And then there's also has there ever been anybody actually came back to you and were like, hey, this is actually pretty good. Why don't you continue it for that
Yeah, they
Python
did. There
series
was
videos you're working
there's a
on?
couple comments that said they really enjoyed the video and wanted more, but um, I mean, there's a lot more on the other videos that they enjoyed those. So it's kind of you kind of weigh the um,
Yeah.
return on the time, and how many people it helps. And it seems like the Flutter videos help a lot more people.
Yeah, I think that's really the big problem. So I was also similar situation when I started up mine. Like there was a lot more
Mhm.
books than anything else, and also yeah, there wasn't that much
Mhm.
content in general though. So I thought that was a good idea to get into that. Um, but yeah, anyways, why don't we go ahead and actually start getting back to like the
Sure.
main topic, right? So with Flutter coming out 2.0, I know it's been a while, right? So we're recording this on April 14th. It's been some time. The dust has settled, right? What's kind of your feeling about this? Like, do you really think the topic of this is always like, is it a big deal, right? And, I want to hear your side.
Um, I think it's a depends on how you look at it. If you're looking at it from like um a big like you want to get products out now type of like thought process, you want to create web products right now. I'm not too sure Flutter Web is the best solution for all the websites, and I think that was the big release. But in terms of seeing that they're working on the product and how fast it's moving along yet, and that I read somewhere that the big reason wasn't necessarily to say Flutter Web is, ready to go, ready to be used, but to show that they're fully supporting it and to help people like make packages for it and help like the whole community grow and start using Flutter Web
Mm.
slowly. And I think that's kind of that's why I think it is a big move and um, interesting to I think it's a great way forward to that they're gonna be like officially supporting Flutter Web for now. And I don't know. I'm excited for it, and all the things that they announced, all the companies that are working on it, all the projects that they showed, the different things they're doing. It makes me excited for the future of Flutter, and it's great to see that they're moving forward with everything that they initially planned. Like a little part of me was like thinking maybe they wouldn't move forward with web since Android and iOS was working so well together, and maybe web was going to be like an afterthought. But it seems like they're really bringing it forward, and like it's not just like they said an afterthought, but it's the main product as well.
Yeah, so I'm going to try to make this a little bit blunt, right? The first thing I kind of heard you say, it almost made me feel like your meaning was like, yeah, they released it and they're officially saying that it's production ready for web, right? Is it almost like a throwing a bone to their audience, or even saying that this is like a marketing move where they're just trying to like make people use it more? Or is that kind of also what you're trying to say, or am I making this too blunt, or it's not really
Um,
black and
I
white
do,
like that?
I don't know. I don't really have that strong opinion about like First of all, I'd like to mention I haven't used Flutter Web that much. Like I said, the project I'm working on right now uses Next.js.
Mhm.
I haven't built the Flutter website after Flutter 2.0 has come out. So just to be clear, like I don't really, um, I'm not like a master about Flutter Web or anything like that. But and that was just something that I read that is kind of like a marketing move, and it kind of
Mhm.
made sense a little bit to me. But again, like I haven't used it as much, so I wouldn't go out and say a bold statement that like that's what it was. But I mean, I've used it for like there's some parts that I think I would have liked to see maybe before, maybe to be done by this point. Um, I think I've had like troubles with like hot reload and stuff like that, and that would be yeah.
Yeah, with Flutter Web, right?
So it's
Yeah,
just like
same.
little
Go ahead.
things like that, and that I would like to have been figured out by now. But again, I mean, it does work for a lot of scenarios, and I think it's definitely a good option depending on what you're trying to do. Um, yeah, I don't I guess I don't have that strong opinions and like that strong feelings about it since I haven't used it as much. But I do like the move,
Mhm.
and I'm excited for the path forward, I guess. And I think it kind of solidifies it as a main piece of Flutter instead of just like a side afterthought.
So I heard a lot of speculation, right, in what you're thinking, kind of what it could be. But how about we make it more clear? Because I really want to get your opinions about this, right? And so, what do you feel comfortable in saying about like what does Flutter 2.0 kind of mean to you, right? What do you actually say about this? Because obviously you and I, or at least for sure you're kind of like, well, Flutter Web. I mean, it kind of works, but it's
Mhm.
can be flaky. At least if I said that correctly, right? So what do you like say in terms of like what it means to you?
Well, them releasing Flutter 2.0, the biggest part of it means that they're the other platforms other than Android and iOS are not just an afterthought, that they are part of what
Mm-hmm.
Flutter is and part of what it will be moving forward. And I think that's the key takeaway for me and the part that I'm really excited about. They put desktop um, in the stable but like beta sort of thing too. So they're moving forward with that. And then they even announced like some working with Toyota with the embedded software as well, which I mean it's all really exciting to see that was like the focus of it. I feel like there wasn't much updates on mobile and yeah iOS and Android, I guess. And yeah, the key takeaway for me is that all these other platforms aren't just afterthoughts. They're part of what Flutter is.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. That's also what I take away too. I take away that everything is we're not just a mobile framework, and sadly, people still think about them as that.
A lot of what I see on
Um,
Twitter is just they think it's
yeah, I hope.
only like I think a lot of people don't know that it's even capable of doing it. I think they think it's only Android and iOS, and that they don't even know that that's like the future of Flutter. And I think that's Flutter 2.0 kind of wanted to put that in the forefront.
Yeah, I have a hard time to make any kind of app like native without actually thinking about Flutter in the first place, just because it just makes everything easier. I got a project to make a Windows app, and I actually did all the development using Flutter on my Mac, and then just went to my virtual machine, exported it, and I was done. So that was well, for the most part, I was done. There's a couple of pieces here and there, but most of it was pretty straightforward. So I was super happy with it, and they were happy too.
Yeah, I
It
feel like I
just yeah,
would probably choose
um,
building in Flutter over like even if I only needed an app for Android, for example. I think I'd still choose building it in Flutter just because of like the whole developer
and
experience and like being able to get it done quickly. I guess at this point too, and it's just nice to work with. I don't know, it's exciting.
yeah. There was I think his name is Randall Schwartz. He's a developer advocate for Flutter. I think he used to be pretty big in the Perl world. I heard him on the It's All Widgets podcast, and he also I think a lot of people keep pushing that it's multi-platform, etc., right? But his whole thing was, no, man, this is like forget about the multi-platform, right? Just take a look at it. You
Mhm.
can build some really fantastic apps very easily. Forget about the multi-platform. This is where it's at. The multi-platform is just sugar on top or whatever. and I totally agree.
Yeah, I think I haven't done as deep
Yeah,
dive. I know I've heard of Randall and like some of the work he's done, and he's pretty knowledgeable about all his Flutter stuff. I think I haven't done as deep dives as him, but I mean, I believe it. It seems I haven't ran into any issues like performance wise on any mobile platform, and I mean, I haven't ran into many. I've tested with Flutter Web a lot and with desktop, and haven't run into many issues there as well, except a little like couple annoyances on Flutter Web. But I mean, yeah, I'm excited. I think it seems like if everything keeps going at this rate of improvement, and it's getting better and better every month, it seems. I mean, in a couple of years, I feel like there might not be any reason to not use Flutter for whatever type of software you want to make.
yeah, I totally agree. And I see that you're actually you're developing your apps now mostly on Mac, no? And then just switching over to iOS or
Yeah, so
Android if you
I
ever need
have.
to.
Oh, like you mean the like Mac desktop apps, right?
Yeah, well, I watched your latest video. Well, maybe that
Yeah,
was the
the
orientation
layouts
one,
and
right?
stuff. Yeah,
Or how to do responsive. Well, I guess you can't really do that with a Mac. You
yeah.
can't really make your phone bigger and
That's kind
smaller,
of why I
right?
chose it
But
on there.
I think,
I Yeah, I usually stick
mhm.
with desktop or mobile. I have my emulators and everything, and then I have a physical mobile device that I think is really nice to test on. Like just have it in your hand and actually be able to use it. I think that's a pretty important part for testing your Flutter apps, instead of just like clicking around on the screen. But I mostly develop in mobile. But I mean, I've been working with desktop now a little bit since they released the stable. I'm a big fan of the stable branch. I don't really go off of it much into the beta or master channels. So,
Mm.
I mean, they brought it into there, so I get to use it a little bit now. Yeah,
Yeah, you just do the
yeah,
enable flag and you're ready to go, right? So I had a guest on a couple weeks ago. He basically his tip was, if you're going to be working on a Mac or you're going to be working on a Windows, pick the platform that you're doing because it's much faster and easier and more stable to work that way. Because otherwise you got to emulate and all this other stuff. He said even for Flutter Web, forget about it. Just use the Mac desktop or Windows desktop, and then just export it later on. It's much better, or test it as the last step because of the
yeah.
issues that
I've
we
heard
can
a lot of
have,
that
right?
stuff too, especially because it becomes a lot easier to test if your layouts are responsive and all that stuff. You can just drag it around instead of, with the phone. It's a little tougher. What I got a question for you, maybe.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
have you heard any rumors about Fuchsia and Flutter? Because like kind of the statement I made about moving forward, like in the next couple of years, I don't really see much reason to not use Flutter if it keeps going like this. But there's a lot of rumors about like Fuchsia and what
Yeah,
that could bring to the Flutter like community.
yeah. I haven't seen anything. I just did a quick Google search. If you heard me typing around,
Yeah,
Fuchsia's been quite quiet. I mean, I know that they've been supporting out of the box for some reason, and I don't think it's even on any
yeah, I
kind
don't
of
think
real
so. No.
devices yet, right?
I was just saying if you had any
Not that I know
rumors,
of.
maybe.
So I wish I had a hookup. I mean, there's a couple of people I'm trying to talk to, and
Yeah.
it's trying to schedule them to come aboard. Hopefully, maybe they know something, but they may not let me know anything. What I do know, though, is that I believe Fuchsia's made. They are using Rust within Fuchsia, and I know that Android's now starting to use Rust too, which is quite interesting. And I think there may be something there with this, right? They're trying to redo everything, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to start using Rust
Mhm.
within this project too, within Flutter, because that seems to be
Mhm.
what Google's trying to do
No, but
recently.
that's another thing I'm super excited about. And I'm just thinking, like, I mean, if Fuchsia ends up being what the rumors like hype it up to be, that it's just like one operating system for all platforms, and then it seems like Flutter kind of works together with that, developing for all platforms. I don't know. It'd be a pretty cool future to see in like 10 years if that all pans out, I guess.
Google's kind of strange in the fact that it seems like they can sometimes make products that kind of go over each other, right? Like like Fuchsia, but they got Android, and then they also got Chrome OS, and they also got Angular. They got Flutter now. They used to have Dart with Angular, and yeah,
I
it's
think that was
getting
like
really weird now.
when I first started creating content for it. I think one of the biggest questions was like, how do you know Flutter's not like Google's not going to drop Flutter? Because like they drop like you said, they have a lot of
Yeah.
overlapping projects and then they drop a lot of projects as well. I think those questions have kind of gone away now by this point, just because like Flutter has become so big now. But I still get like the off one. They're like, oh, but like they canceled Google Music. I'm like, Google Music was nowhere near like the community that Flutter is. Um,
Well, they still got Google Music because I got the
or
YouTube subscription, and I think
they
I
might
got
have
Google
canceled
Music on
something
my
else.
phone.
Maybe
But
I'm
and
missing.
yeah, they
Yeah,
cancel things that do get popular. They also canceled Google Wave, which was quite popular
maybe
at
that's
some
what I was
point.
thinking about.
Yeah, yeah. In any case, right? I think they're more invested now because now they're rewriting their apps from Android directly to that and iOS directly to that. So I can't see them getting away from it. And I think it's become so big and it's getting bigger that it's hard for them to even
Yeah,
consider
exactly. And
the
like,
change.
I mean, I feel like even if they ended up like not supporting it, there's just such a big community now that like someone's gonna hopefully take it over, or I mean, like maybe the community would take it over somehow. I don't know, but I don't see canceling it.
I mean, you got BMW, you got who else is really using
Alibaba,
it? I can't
eBay,
even think anymore. Yeah, those guys too. Alibaba, yeah, a lot of companies. It's crazy. I don't think they could ever
that's
drop
either.
it.
Especially, I mean, the biggest thing is
What I
that
wish
like I
they
think
would.
like something like 15 of their own apps are using Flutter, so that's like a big, big chunk of Google apps that are using Flutter. So yeah, I think it's here to stay.
15 so many. I just remember they got Google Pay.
They had like
What
the
else is
whole
using it now?
presentation. They showed maybe it was above 10 for sure. But they had a whole list of
Really?
they had a whole list of products that are using not built solely on Flutter, but that are using Flutter. I think that was the big one. Like ads. Um, I can't find it now, but that was the very interesting thing for me to see.
Okay, I'll have to take a look at it. What? There is something I do want to ask you about. What do you think about this Navigator 2.0? I mean, to me, it's super confusing, and I did mention that to the email I sent to you, right? Like, I feel like it's such a step backwards compared to what we used to have, but I don't know. I mean, there's a reason why
Yeah,
they're
so I
redoing it,
put out
right?
a video about this exact topic, and like I don't remember the name, but I think it was something like why I don't like Navigator 2.0. Um, the
Yeah.
the story with that is I decided, I'm like, so the way I kind of do videos is I decide on a topic and then I learn about it, and that's kind of how I drive myself to learn more about Flutter because I know I have to put out a video about it, so I have to learn the specific topic. So I was dragging on making the video on Flutter on Navigator 2.0 just because I kept putting it off. And then I finally decided, I'm like, all right, in 2 weeks, I'm going to make a Navigator 2.0 video. I got to learn about it so I can teach people. And I think, and I never had a problem learning a topic. I feel like most Flutter topics, they're well documented, they're easy to learn, and like I've never had an issue learning within like a couple of
Mm.
days, like what that topic is. And Navigator 2.0 was a different story. That one took me a long time to figure out what it actually, how to make it work, what it actually is supposed to do, what it's supposed to solve, and the end result was that like it solves the issues that it came out to solve, like it fixes the problems that are there, but it does not make it easy for Flutter developers to use. And I think
Mm.
I'm sure if you spent enough time learning about Navigator 2.0 and like really learning the ins and outs on it, and maybe they put out more documentation explaining it better, you could use it and your apps would work fine. But it's just it wasn't like I feel like the big selling point of Flutter is just the ease of use and how nice of a developer experience all of it is, and that was kind of a step not in that same like aisle.
Mm.
But I
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, sorry. Well, I just want to say, like, my understanding was that they wanted to redo the router because the stack-based routing works fine for apps, right? Because there's not really a, what do you call that? Like, it's not like the web where you can punch in a URL at any point and you can go there. It's that, with that mobile app, you really have a set standard of, there's a forks, right? Sorry, I cut you off, but like that was like my main understanding was that they're trying to address this issue of, we have a web browser, you punch in a route, it may be anywhere at any time. So, and also maybe you want to like change the stack of your back browser
The
history, right?
biggest things was
So,
like the back button just didn't work. Like the browser back button with the normal Navigator 2.0 didn't work, and it's just it gave you Navigator 2.0 gives you control of like the whole like stack that you have, and you can like work with it however you want, and it does it in a declarative way instead of the way Navigator 1.0 does it. And it solved those problems. It worked, but it wasn't nice to work with. And like I was gonna say that they there are some packages out there that I haven't tried out yet, but they seem like they would make it a little bit easier, and maybe that's a good solution to use Navigator 2.0. So I don't know. I haven't checked them out personally yet, though.
yeah, for me, I mean, I thought the step backwards was that they push stateless components and then we had to take your app from stateless to stateful now.
Mm-hmm.
To me, I thought that was a huge step backwards. What the heck is the point? I don't want to, like, do you have a few more minutes or no? Because I don't want to, we were scheduled for 1 hour, but we got a little bit more things that I really want to cover, but you let me know if you.
I got a couple more minutes, I think.
Okay. I think what I wanted to really go over too is we kind of went over the main topic, right? Maybe I could just go straight to, these other kind of questions. I think this one, I think I know the answer to it, but I always like to ask people like, what is your tool for state
I'm a
management,
RiverPod
right?
fan. RiverPod and the state notifier provider. Those are my go-to state management solutions, state management like pair. How about you?
Yeah, I got your RiverPod video queued up, but I have to actually watch it. I've been using Block for a while, so I also went to ResoCoder. I like this Block video with his TDD, but there's some things about Block that, yeah, I mean, what I like about RiverPod is they have that error thing where they can catch an error and then you actually can render something nice. So to me, that's super interesting, and I'm seriously considering it because there is some times where weird, freaky things happen in apps and nothing you can do. I'm out in Hong Kong, and you got some people who live out in these way outlier islands, and they still actually have 2G over there because they're really in the middle of nowhere. And we have some guy who always has a problem.
Yeah, just like
from the
RiverPod for all the
apps.
safety there is. Like you can't really have
Yeah.
you can't be providing data without putting in a loading and an error state. So it's always kind of protected there. And then I tried out Block, and I admit it's probably just my fault for not working with it enough, but it just seemed like there was too much that needed to be set up in order for it to work, and too much that you need to understand. But again, that might just be that might be a good thing as well, because they have like Block isn't just a state management solution, it's like a whole like pattern of development. So I guess it could definitely, like, if I did learn it well, it could help with keeping like code bases clean and all that stuff and making it easier to understand. So yeah, I don't know. I have my own little pattern that I use, like the Tadas pattern for RiverPod development, where I have everything structured in a specific way, and it works for me. So I just kind of work with that.
So if we wanted to see what that looks like, you do have some videos specifically about RiverPod. I think you have a RiverPod playlist, right? If we watch through that, we'll probably see your Tadas pattern, right?
It's similar. It's pretty
Okay.
similar to ResoCoder's DDD setup. So I don't know if you've seen that series, but the domain-driven design is similar to that. But I think all of those patterns and everything that you see, they're just kind of guidelines. They're not necessarily strict rules that you have to like follow. At least for like the design patterns, some of the architecture patterns are a little bit more strict. But with the design patterns, there's kind of like guidelines of things you should think about when architecting your app or putting stuff together. So I have like my version of it. It's a little different, but it's what I don't know. It works great for me. So, or in all the projects that I do. So that's kind of what I stick with.
Why do you think state management is such a complicated topic in Flutter? Like, it seems like it's not at a point where
Mhm.
people will fight each other, but it's definitely something where people
Yeah.
have some opinions, right?
I'm not sure. I think I think there's just a lot of, I don't know, some people enjoy one and maybe they haven't tried all of them. So like they're like, "Oh, this one works so good. Like I'm a big fan of this one." And they think that's like that's the only option. I think if you really go around and try all of the options, you'll see that they're pretty similar. Like in the grand scheme of things, they're not that different. They're all the same, pretty much the same concept. It's just different ways of structuring it. And I mean, in my opinion, whatever you use, as long as it works, then great for you. Like if it builds your apps the fastest, if you know it the best, then that's the right solution, and that's the only thing you need to worry about. I don't think it really, I don't think it should be that big of a like topic where people actually like have such strong feelings about certain state management solutions. Yeah.
Not like hot dogs
Yeah,
and
not like hot
ketchup,
target.
right? Okay. So why do you think that Flutter, like the Flutter team, actually recommends provider over other forms of state
I
management?
think it's just because it was, I mean, it was one of the first ones, right? So it was like block and provider were some of the first ones. And I think it's just, it doesn't add much to the Flutter, like the Flutter SDK. Provider doesn't really add too much more logic to it. It's kind of just I mean, like it says, it's a wrapper for the inherited widget, so it just makes their inherited widget easier to use, kind of. I think it's just there's not much extra, nothing fancy that provider does to make it, like I think RiverPod was kind of the next step to make it a little bit easier to work with, but providers kind of helped out, and it did it in the simplest way and without changing too much what Flutter's about. So I think that's kind of why they went with recommending it. I'm not too sure though. I wasn't part of the recommendation team, unfortunately.
Yeah, I totally understand. And it seems to be pretty straightforward. I have to play with some more. I think just a couple more questions, right? So, um, what I wanted to really ask was there was another one over here. I must have lost it, but I guess I can actually probably end it with kind of this one, right? Now that you've been doing Flutter for some time, you've been teaching people things. Of course, you've been learning yourself, right? If you were to speak to a younger or newer developer who's starting out in Flutter, what kind of tips would you give this person, or even what kind of warnings would you give to them so that they can be on a much better path?
um, so I think the biggest in terms of development and like becoming a better developer, I think it's Flutter makes it really easy for you to not need to understand what's going on inside of Flutter in order to make things work. It becomes so easy to just like copy paste widgets here and there, and you see, oh, it like works out, and you have a working app without really understanding how it works. I think it's important to kind of how to get a good grasp of Dart first, or like programming overall. Maybe not doesn't have to be with Dart. Just really understand like what programming is and some of the programming topics like algorithms, data structures, um, all those things. Get a good grasp of that before you move into going hard with a framework that is built on programming language. So if you got that, then I mean you can. I'm not saying to spend years learning about what programming is before you go into Flutter, but definitely make sure you're comfortable creating apps that make sure you're comfortable creating software that isn't necessarily a UI based app before you go into Flutter. And then once you're comfortable, a little bit comfortable with that, then jump into Flutter. And there's a lot to learn. Try to actually understand this stuff before um, building like huge apps, because like not understanding state management was I built my first app without using state management, and I had to like redo it because I mean it was a big app with lots of moving pieces, and I was just passing along the state. Like I wasn't even using inherited widget, I was just passing it along everywhere. I know it's just really messy. So I think understanding those topics, at least though you don't have to understand every single package, but like maybe just pick one, even if it is provider, which is a recommended one, just get a good grasp of how it works, how to lay out your apps, keep things organized and all that stuff. And hopefully you can build good projects with that. And then another little tip is, I think it's a great idea to document your journey of learning somewhere, whether it is like a blog, YouTube, whatever platform you choose, even if it's just a notebook, just writing down what you learn and how to learn it. I think if you do it online, it might bring other people, like it might help other people learn, because I mean, there's going to be new people learning Flutter probably for a long time from now. And even if your article is very basic level of learning what a stateless widget is, even that could definitely help some people out there, and also help yourself if you ever need to look back at a certain topic. You can have a good reference and teach yourself about it. That's kind of like taking this whole journey about teaching on YouTube and like socially, I guess, has just been a lot better than I thought it was when I first started. Actually, when I first started, I didn't think anything was going to come of it. But as it kept going, just so many opportunities have come, so many things that I never thought would have happened came out of it. And it's just, it seems to help a lot of people, and like getting messages that people were able to build their first Flutter app because of some videos that I put out. There's nothing like more rewarding than that. So learn your content, learn what programming is before you jump deep into Flutter. And then if you want, document it. It's definitely something I could recommend. But again, if you really want to just develop, it's not necessary.
Okay, we had some really good points, and I could totally agree with that. I also got somebody kind of came back to me and said, "Hey, man, your videos are really inspired me, or really helped me get past this problem." Right? Those, because sometimes you're making your content, you're throwing it out there. Maybe you're getting some views, but you don't know if the guy watched it for 3 seconds or 30 minutes, right? And so when you hear that people say, "Oh, I got value from it," that's definitely something that kind of keeps you going. Otherwise, you're just throwing it out there and they're just numbers, they're view counts, but there's no meaning behind it.
Yeah, it's like when you do get those comments, or like someone message you about how you helped them, is I don't know, that's probably the most rewarding part of this whole thing, is like that you were actually helpful to others and they were able to do something because of you. I think there's no better feeling than that.
Now, you're not at a stage where you're walking in the Woodfield Mall and you're getting flagged by people, right? You're not at that stage yet. That would be. Do you think you'd ever get to that stage, or would that just be too scary?
I don't know. That's not the goal. I don't really care about like that type of stuff as much. It's just it'd be nice to keep growing and keep helping more and more people. I think that's kind of the main goal of all of it. I don't really care what comes out of it, like personally. I mean, obviously, like a nice dev advocate job would be nice, but overall, I'm just happy to help as many people as I can learn Flutter.
Yeah, totally true. Well, I think I already took up a little bit more of your time than we originally planned. I definitely enjoyed talking with you. I think you have a lot of interesting ideas and opinions and everything else. So at the end, I mean, if you have something you want to plug, or if you have something you want to say or you want to show or whatever, now would be the time.
I don't have much to plug other than my YouTube channel and my Twitter, which are both Tadas Petra. So hopefully those pop up if you Google it. If you follow me on Twitter in maybe like a week or two, I should be releasing a pretty cool product that could help people with content creation. So check in for that one.
Definitely. Okay. Anything else you wanted to say?
Just thank you for having me on the podcast as well. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you too. So we'd love to have you back and talk some more about something. Okay. So with that, I'll catch you guys next time.
Bye.
Thanks.